Print. We'll let Zero Food Print jump in and give us a brief update that day, and they can give us info for their webinar for those that are interested. We'll also, in this practice implementation series, we'll be covering cover crops and compost tea in the next few webinars. As we go along, we might shuffle these around if things pop up that we need to address. We're also thinking in October, we will bring back our office hours. So we will be meeting once a week. Every other week, it will be a webinar, informational webinar. And then on the off weeks, it will be our office hours where you can come in with questions. So that'll be starting in October. So as I said, today we'll be talking about technical assistance providers and how this process is going to work. As producers begin enrolling and thinking about which new soil health related practices they would like to experiment with in their coming crop years, 2024, 2025, and 2026, many will need assistance to successfully implement these plans. Technical assistance will be provided to you and your producers from CSU staff, Colorado Department of Agriculture staff, private contractors when necessary. CSU technical assistance providers will consist of local extension and AES employees. A list of these local CSU technical assistance providers was provided to you prior to this meeting. Today, we will primarily focus on the roles and responsibilities of all the parties involved in this process. The CDA is in the process of hiring regional soil health field specialists that will be operating across Colorado. These employees will also be technical assistance providers, so they'll be there as technical assistance resources to conservation districts and entities and to producers. As I said, we are in the process of hiring these folks, so updates will be provided when available. This is not the fastest of processes, so those folks will hopefully be available around the beginning of the year and definitely by spring. In areas where the producer to CDA or CSU employee ratio is too high, then a contractor may be hired as a technical assistance provider, and we'll talk about this further on in the presentation. So we have a couple areas around the state where we have a large number of folks who are producers participating in the program and a smaller number of taps to assist. So in those areas, we may have to take other action. It's going to be pretty difficult to do to get everybody's info out here because it's such a large group. So we'll kind of stick with the primary folks and then we'll have everyone put their info in the chat. But my name, as I said, is John Miller. I'm the Colorado Department of Agriculture Soil Health Program Manager. Here with us today is Steve Blecker, who is with CSU AES. And his contact info is here. He'll be speaking a little bit later on. And Dan Goldhammer, who is with CSU Extension, and his contact info is there as well. Dan and Steve will be the ones sort of orchestrating the CSU end of this process. A list of CSU staff that have shown interest in participating as technical assistance providers was provided prior to this meeting, so you all should have seen that list. And then we would like everyone to enter their organization's contact name and contact information into the chat. So this might get a little bit chaotic right here for a bit. The chat's going to get wild, but we want everyone to be able to put their info in there, and then folks can if you see the person on there, a name that you might recognize of someone near you or that's on the technical assistance provider list that you received, then you can grab their info out of the chat. So feel free to do that. And also feel free to begin communicating between the technical assistance providers and the folks in need of assistance. Sorry, I'm having an issue here. There we go. All right. This is, first and foremost, we want to remind everyone this is a cooperative effort between all of us. Our technical assistance provider plan is intended to strengthen relationships between CSU, the CDA, and conservation districts and entities that are participating in the soil health program. We want to encourage future cooperation to benefit the producers in your areas. So, we're really hoping to build some good relationships here. Encourage the long-term adoption of soil health practices, which is what we're all after at the end of the day, and to provide excellent technical resources to farmers and ranchers. So, of really what we're trying to do is create a really strong network here to provide those resources. And it's great to remember in the very beginning here, we are all in this together for the benefit of the producers that we are assisting. So we're all doing this for farmers and ranchers in Colorado. In 2022, 2022 is our inaugural year for the soil health program. After that first year, we conducted an after action review where we interviewed folks that were involved in the program to identify areas where we fell short. And technical assistance was identified as an area that needed improvement. So some of you may have went through that initial year, and you may have even participated in that after action review. In year one, most participants did not receive any agronomic or soil health technical assistance. So, as I said, we have identified this as an area that needs improvement. Very few participants were connected with the technical assistance provider, and most technical assistance providers never received training or engaged with the STAR program in any way. So, obviously, there were some shortcomings happening. Why did this happen? The rapid rollout of the state soil health program was probably the #1 reason why this happened. We expanded very quickly in the very beginning of the program, and a lot of things happened very fast. So some portions of what we did not happen in the greatest of possible manners, and so that is what we're trying to rectify with this after action review. We possibly did not identify the right people to serve as technical assistance providers. There was a low demand for technical assistance from participants, and there was not a clear understanding of the technical assistance provider role from either the producers or the TAPs themselves. It is worth noting that we did have some very successful technical assistance provider interactions that created long-term relationships between producers and technical assistance providers. And some of those TAPs are back again, which is awesome. We're happy to see them, and we hope that we can continue on and expand this the program to work the way it did with that core group of folks where it was really successful. We want to do that everywhere. How can we make the system work better in the future? So how can we make up for those shortfalls from last year? #1 would be better communication between technical assistance providers, the conservation districts and entities, the Colorado Department of Agriculture, and the producers. So communication. There was not enough of that happening last year, and this year we're going to do our best to communicate better. We're already attempting to do that with these webinars and our efforts to get everybody in touch with the folks who are operating in their local regions. A more clearly defined role and responsibilities needs to be, roles and responsibilities need to be a clearer process. So we'll be talking about that in a few slides. I'll go through the roles and responsibilities of each of the participants. Better support and training for all parties. So as I said, we're trying to get people to come to these webinars, and please continue to come to them. And we will be reopening up our office hours every other week in October. So every week on Monday, we will be having some type of CDA get together here webinar where we all get together. If you bring your questions, and we're inviting everyone, we're inviting CSU personnel, we're inviting technical assistance providers, and we're inviting the conservation districts and entities. So we all want to have a good flow of knowledge and communication. And we want to empower producers and technical assistance providers to own this relationship. So at the end of the day, this is about forming that relationship with those new producers and getting them help, not just for maybe the soil health program or for now, but for any time that they need help. now I'll go through some roles and responsibilities. So conservation districts and entities, this will be the roles and responsibilities they will play. They will attend webinars and office hours provided by CDA. Again, that's part of that information flow and getting everybody up to speed and keeping them up to speed, answering questions as they come in. Convey to your producers that there is someone to help them. So when they express that they need help, let them know that there is help to be had. Foster and maintain an open dialogue between producers and technical assistance providers. So you're really the ones to bridge that gap and to make sure that your producers are getting the technical assistance that they're needing, and if they're not, you're the first to identify it. And that's the next point: identify producers' needs and concerns, and notify technical assistance providers that there are needs and concerns, and identify choke points, issues, or problems, and immediately notify both the CDA_soil at state.co.us email and email steve.blecker at colostate.edu. We want you to send an email addressed to both of those email addresses if you have any type of issues or problems that you need to have addressed through the technical assistance provider program, and then we will immediately begin working to address those issues. Please remember, if we don't know about the problem, there is no way for us to address it and help you work through it. And then in-person meetings between conservation districts, entities, and technical assistance providers are highly encouraged. So feel free to get on Zoom meetings with people and phone calls, but we'd like you all to meet up. If you don't know the people who are operating in your area, get together with them and meet them. Roles and responsibilities of the technical assistance providers. So they will attend workshops and trainings hosted by the CDA and/or CSU. They will participate in a minimum of 4 initial consultations based on the needs of conservation districts and entities. And I know many of you are out there already doing initial consultations. You're getting together with those producers and getting them enrolled and filling out plans on what they hope to accomplish. And it is unfortunate that we have had a slowdown in how quickly we've been able to roll out some of these, including the help from our technical assistance providers, but this is due to funding challenges and moving money around through contracts. So we're trying to get this help out there as quickly as we can for you. But say producers know that they would like to do some form of cover cropping or intercropping. Maybe you can get the initial consultation filled out, and then as you get in touch with your technical assistance providers and form those relationships, you can begin to contact the producer and work more on the details of how they will implement those practices. So as I said, this is unfortunate. We are a bit behind, but this is just how it's worked with our funding. We would like the technical assistance providers to provide assistance to STAR Plus producers as needed for the following. Assist them with collecting soil samples. So as we all know, there will be soil samples collected in years 1 and 3. And we're hoping that the technical assistance providers can help those producers not only to take those samples, but to learn how to take samples on their own. Help them with the interpretation of soil testing results. And we will have webinars that will go over both the soil sample collection and the interpretation of soil test results. Interpretation of soil moisture monitoring system data. Again, we will have webinars and trainings where we go over the soil moisture monitoring systems, what kind of data they're providing, and then how to interpret that data. And assistance with STAR field evaluation forms. As we get closer to the beginning of the new year, we will have a webinar specifically about STAR field evaluation forms. And then we would like them to assist with practice implementation, advice, and questions. This one's a big one. As the producers go to implement their new practice or practices for the next 3 years, they might have questions on how to do that. Or maybe they will try cover cropping mix the first year and then would like to change things up the second year or plant differently the second year. And so hopefully those technical assistance providers are there to help them, to provide them with some advice on how they could maybe be more successful. So at the end of the day, that practice they're implementing is a success for them and they can continue it on past the life of our program. They will also be assisting with yearly fall check-ins as requested by conservation districts and entities, and assisting with the final consultations for each conservation district and entity in year 4, which is our closeout year, as requested. And this is an important slide: communication, communication, communication. What if a technical assistance provider or a conservation district or entity encounter a problem? Immediately send an email to both of the following email addresses. Again, it's the CDA Soil email address and Steve Blecker's email address. Once we are notified of an issue, we will begin working to address that issue. We cannot help you to overcome problems if we are not aware that those problems exist. So please let us know as soon as something arises. And then I'm going to turn the mic here over to Steve now. Oh, how do I go back? And Steve will speak a bit here at the end about CSU and how these folks who are on the technical assistance provider list got there, and a little bit more in depth about CSU's end of this. If you're ready to go, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, John. First of all, I just want to thank everybody, both the TAPs and the eligible entities, conservation districts. I mean, this is a huge project. There's just so many producers, so many people, so many moving parts, and your patience with this, trying to help everybody kind of come together around this technical assistance end of things. We just really appreciate it. So yeah, I just want to point out a couple things. So as you're probably aware, the CSU staff, I mean, everybody, you guys are busy, CSU staff's busy, the producers are busy. And so just keep in mind that this is not their entire job. This is just one small part of dozens of different things they do. And that you all should have gotten a list. I think Friday, we kind of sat down and looked at the technical assistance providers that have volunteered to be a part of this, and tried pairing them up with the different conservation districts and eligible entities. And again, this is just it's a suggestion. It's not a requirement. We're not going to tell you, you have to work with, such and such an individual. However, if there are people in your area and there's someone else you would rather use, we'd appreciate if you would let us know that. We're just trying to keep track of everyone who's going to be involved in this from a technical assistance standpoint. And just, if for nothing else, just to kind of make sure we're meeting a minimum level of qualifications. And we do have a list of that, which we can send out. Let's see. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to read through the list here. Yeah. So you're more than welcome to, if you've used someone in the past that you're happy with, or you have someone in mind that you'd like to work with, it's not part of the CSU or on that list we sent out. I mean, that's just, again, let us know, and we're definitely willing to work with you on that. The other issue, as John mentioned before, is we definitely have parts of the state where we don't have enough technical assistance providers kind of in the CSU system to cover a given area. And we've started trying to work, try to bring in outside folks, such as certified crop advisors. And what I will say is, this is if you haven't already started conversations between, the TAPs and these different conservation districts, please do. John, Dan, and I are kind of, we're not going to set up any specific meetings after this, but we're more than welcome to answer questions, help you guys along as you work with the producers and fill out these forms. And just to back up a minute, there's a lot of stuff here, right? There was a whole laundry list of everybody's responsibilities, but keep in mind that this fall, the important thing is to get the producers enrolled and fill out the consultation form. And then most of that other stuff is going to happen in the following years. For instance, next spring, that's when you'll be doing the soil sampling, installing the soil moisture probes, and we'll deal with that later. That's going to be a whole nother task. So yeah, anyway, thanks again, and looking forward to working with everybody on this and having a good program.
Great. Thank you, Steve. All right, we're gonna go ahead and turn this over to questions. It looks like there's quite a few in the chat box. Well, maybe those are all people's contact info. So we got a bunch of contact info in there. And near the bottom, can technical assistance providers assist existing producers in the STAR program? Yes, that would be the short answer. Ashley Grasser said, I would like a list. If you wouldn't mind, Ashley, please email the CDA_soil at state.co.us, and we'll make sure to get you added to the list of folks who are receiving the updates and lists and stuff. And as Steve mentioned, we will Marissa says, can you point me to the location to find these recorded meetings? We definitely have them on our website, the CDA Soil Health website. They are also on the CDA Soil Health YouTube channel. I notice I'm on the list, but there's a question mark after my name. I don't think there is a issue that you should know about. I think there just might have been a question mark left on the list in the wrong spot.
Oh, that's the pairing system. Yeah, we weren't, in those cases, we're not 100% sure where your producers might be as far as what part of the state they might be in, or we just haven't identified exactly who would be the best technical assistance provider. Yeah, nope. And same with you. Yeah, there's I mean, everybody has these unique situations. Like Greg, you just mentioned you have the question marks. That just, in this case, there aren't. We haven't been able to identify a lot of people down in that corner of the state. So you can kind of reach out to us, and we can work on this, figure out a solution to how that you're going to get technical assistance out to your producers.
And I should underscore, the CDA will be hiring regional field specialists who will be able to assist with these technical questions as well. It all just takes time.
And the other, I'd like to point out another thing that, I mean, there is no, I mean, we have this, it's kind of a minimum requirement where we'd like to see the TAPs work with at least 4 consultations per conservation district, but there's no reason. I mean, it's all going to be based on everybody's workload, right? I mean, it's just, you do as many as you feel you can handle. And you also, as much, I mean, it's nice to get out in the field and do it in person, but I know last year folks relied on Zoom, to kind of bring producers together to have similar cropping systems. I mean, be creative as to how you kind of interact with your producers and the TAPs and everybody.
That's a great point, Steve. All right.
I really like the idea of having numerous producers get together in a Zoom call. I like the idea of being out on the land with a producer. However, having multiple producers talking and asking questions and learning from each other, I really enjoy that peer-to-peer mentoring that can occur with that. So good idea.
Retta asked if we have a timeline on the regional soil health specialists. As soon as possible, Retta. But realistically, as far as getting those folks hired on and trained up and ready to go, we'll probably be looking at after the first of the year. Definitely by the time folks are out there doing planting and farming. Any other questions? And again, feel free to, I saw folks coming in pretty late. Go back on that channel. It looked like Nikki put the link in the chat up above here for our YouTube channel. Thank you, Nikki. feel free to go back and watch all of our presentations and send us questions at the CDA Soil website or email address. Sean, looks like Sean has her hand raised.
Hi, I'm sorry it was too long to type. But what I'm wondering is, just for clarity, when you say that the responsibility of the technical assistance providers is to interpret the samples and give recommendations, that's not is this correct that that's not necessarily giving recommendations of nutrient inputs, since that seems to be what the soil samples push towards, but it's rather interpreting the samples in a way that fits within the 5 soil health principles. Is that correct?
That is correct. And there's a lot of information in the soil samples once the soil results, once we get them back, and not just NPK. And last year we had a lot of questions on what all those things meant. So as I said, we're going to be trying to do our best to also once we have a company on board that will be providing all the soil samples going forward, we'll be working with them to roll out what all the many results mean to people once they see them.
Thank you.
And along with minimum requirements of technical assistance providers, is there something written for technical assistance providers to let them know how much time at a minimum they should expect to invest per producer or per conservation district or entity? Does anyone want to address that? I mean, I don't want to limit people to a certain amount of time. I would like to see them provide as much time as is necessary.
John,
yes, Patrick.
have you guys spitballed within CDA or CSU what it's going to take to do this well for someone, whether they're part of CSU or they're from outside? Everybody, as Steve mentioned, has limited time, but if the TAPs don't know how much time is expected, it'll be hard for them to figure it out themselves.
I would say, you know, it's just as Steve had said. Yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, we have spitballed a little bit, Patrick, about that, and especially because, as you know, this is grant funded, so our grant award did have to put in some minimum hours that we thought would be required. Steve, maybe we should talk and see if that would be helpful for your staff to kind of have that outlined about your hours per year or hours per month minimum, which I think we could kind of extrapolate pretty easily. It might be clarifying for folks who want to be, you know, these contracted TAPs. But
yeah, and I might actually, the folks that were TAPs last year, I might be reaching out to some of you to get some feedback as far as that goes. And yeah, so that's a good point.
And I would point out there is no one size fits all, right? I mean, some of these producers are going to need a minimum amount of assistance, and some of them are going to need way more. But we could try to make a median estimate.
I think another thing I'm trying to work on too on the behind the scenes is kind of creating a shared email inbox for just the technical assistance provider on the CSU side of things too, so that you know, both you as conservation districts and eligible entities and your producers will have kind of a direct line, and that they'll be able to have lots of eyes on that question. And so if you know, I'm out in the field for the week and it's gonna be hard for me to get to my email, maybe someone else will be able to pick it up. And you know, I think the real goal is to provide, you know, excellent customer service, and really that strong communication. I think the other fun thing too, it's like, you know, every farm's different, every ecosystem's different, every farmer's, you know, preferences around, you know, economics, you know, the social impacts and the ecological impacts will all have to kind of manage, and it'll totally be that 80-20% rule too, that, you know, maybe 20% of the producers might take 80% of the attention and could also yield, you know, 80% of the outcomes. So it'll be, I think, just important that we on the CSU side are committed to really providing that excellent customer service and, excellent scholarship and unbiased fact finding.
Thank you, Dan. That's a very good point. And I have a message from Jenny. I will get a hold of you, Jenny. All right. Any other thoughts? Great. All right, on to my final slide here. And just a final reminder, we will have another webinar coming up on September 25th, centered around compost application. And hopefully some of the folks who are on the call today will participate in our compost panel. But we'll see all of you then. And then, as I said, starting in October, we will be having either a webinar or office hours every Monday. So every other Monday, there will be a webinar. Every other Monday, we'll have office hours where you can bring questions. So please look for the invites for that. We'll try to get the odd date thing sorted out and get new invites out to everybody. We will also get out the minimum qualifications for technical assistance providers document. And if you, for some reason, are not on the list to get our these webinar announcements, or like the list that we sent out of the names of the technical assistance providers, email the email address on the screen there, CDA Soils email, and let us know that you would like to have your email address added to our main list. Any parting thoughts? Awesome. Thank you all. Remember, communication is key here. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions, comments, feedback, whatever you're thinking. So thank you. And we'll see you all on September 25th.